Hello, Eva, and thank you so much for joining us for this interview. We really appreciate your time. Could you start with us by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you are now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nadia, for having me. And my apologies that I could not make it in person because of visa challenges. Yeah, my name is Eva Kyeni Abel. I'm a Christian, a mother and a wife, and a researcher. So I am from Kenya, but I'm currently living in the Netherlands for 9 months now, where I'm pursuing my PhD in the Faculty of Religion and Theology at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam.
That sounds
something also important to mention. I'm also one of we call them growth scholars. We are 51 scholars from Africa. We went through a very competitive process. So our funding is focusing on sustainable development goals, part of the Marie Curie funding.
Congratulations. That's a great accomplishment. That's wonderful. And how long have you been there?
For 9 months now.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about the focus of your research?
Yeah, my research topic is engaging churches in eliminating obstetric fistula. Yeah, so I'm looking at how to prevent obstetric fistula from a multidisciplinary approach to maternal health. So I first begin by mapping what are the fundamental causes of obstetric fistula. Of course, a lot of research on fistula has been done from a medical perspective. So I'm bringing the non-medical perspective. So what are the fundamental causes? And I want to look at this from a sustainable development goal lens. So I'll examine how does fistula intersect with poverty, with gender equality, with education, with water and sanitation. Yeah, maybe later also I'll see if there's a relationship with climate change. Then I'm also so much interested in social, cultural, and religious factors. I want to see if I'll get how does that lead to fistula. Then my focus is also on preventing fistula while also supporting women living with fistula so that they live a more dignified life. Then in looking at the experiences of women living with fistula, I want to look at them from a theological point of view, not just as any experiences, but what does this tell us? What can we learn from these women in the way they manage to find hope to live amidst such a dehumanizing human condition? Then I'm also interested in looking at what does fistula do to their faith? Does it bring them near to God in terms of trying to navigate and live, find hope for living? Or does it draw away them from God, like they feel they are cursed? And how do they navigate that? Then I'm also so much interested in religious leaders and churches, because Kenya, we are 85% Christian, and I believe in the world when the church comes in to speak about issue, because it's one of the important social institutions. So it's critical. So what does the church realize that women are suffering for fistula? If a woman who gave birth and lost their child disappears from church, does that ring a bell? So what can the church do, religious leaders, Christian organization? And also just to emphasize, my focus is on obstetric fistula. Yeah, because it's preventable. Unlike other fistulas, we have other fistulas like iatrogenic, which are caused by medical doctors, or traumatic. Maybe someone is born with a fistula or out of rape, but my focus is on obstetric fistula because women from developing countries don't get fistulas. So it's something that really a woman should not suffer. Yeah, so in a nutshell.
That sounds incredible. And I know a lot of us are really looking forward to seeing what you do with your research and reading your dissertation when it gets done. Tell me this. How did you decide that this would be the focus of your PhD research? How did you decide on this?
This topic first really came to mind when I first worked with Father Edward, who is my link to the community in Ireland. We worked together with him and the human rights officer at the World Council of Churches. We were trying to write a guide to raise awareness to churches about obstetric fistula. So that was not academic. So I realized there was a lot of gaps, but it's something I thought of because I saw there's a lot that could be done from an academic perspective on this topic. But the epitome of this is when, the same year that we wrote the guide. We finished around March. So in September, when I went back in Kenya, I was in Switzerland at that time pursuing my master's. When I was writing the guide, that's when I realized, it's like I had a fistula-related challenge because I reached out I did an interview with the Fistula Foundation and I realized, so what I had at that degree here. So that I also needed to go through a surgery. So when I came back to Kenya, I had episodes of leaking stool at work. And of course, I had struggled with leaking urine, but not continuously like most women with real fistula. So I went to the hospital. I was in the hospital for almost 1 month. And I think for me, that is when I settled that this is what I wanted to do. Yeah.
That's thank you for sharing your story there. That is incredible, really. And you bring such a unique perspective as someone with a personal experience, but also an academic at the same time, which is so powerful. What was it like for you being in hospital for a month with these other women? What were you witnessing around you as you saw them?
Yeah, first it was sad. And I was like, wow, Eva, this thing you read about fistula is real. Like I saw it firsthand. And I saw women, I think I felt like the type of fistula surgery I went to the hospital for was at that degree. I felt like this was nothing. I saw women with difficult fistulas, women who had big, some had stomas. Some were always on diaper. Women who had lost their children, the child who caused fistula. So it was really sad. It was really sad being in the hospital and seeing this. Then, I could see the women have lived in isolation, in poverty. So that was really, I can't explain that it was sad to see it. Then because I was an insider, it was easy for them to share there would be that moment where everyone would share, not every day, but those moments would come where someone would just share what it has meant. Yeah, but some people would see it is hard for it to come out. So I thought, wow, this marginalization, I think, we need to speak. I need to speak it out and let people know that, there are women who are suffering and see how we can do to help.
Thank you for that. And it feels very moving to hear what you're saying and what you were witnessing, because you were already trying to deal with yourself and what you were going through. What do you think would have helped you in those years that you were silent about what you were experiencing when you started to have leakage and that kind of thing? What do you think might have helped you, and what might have helped you and the other women or supported you, for want of a better word than helped, but supported you? What might have supported you more as you were there in the hospital as well?
Okay, for me, the first thing is awareness. Like, it's the lack of awareness about fistula. So, like, for me, I lived with untreated fistula for 6 years, and I'm a bit of an elite. I'm not like, yeah. So, just that awareness, knowing where to get help. Like, it took me 2 years to know that I had a problem. And because there was a fistula camp, I was a high school teacher, and a girl wet herself in class. And one of my male colleagues said, "Oh, maybe this girl has fistula." Then I was like, "What is fistula?" Then there was a medical camp in my town. I went and they screened. They said, "Well, they say you have tested positive," and they wanted me to get in for the surgery, but it was the last day of the surgery. Then I was like, I have a small child. Then they told me, remember, if we do for you this fistula surgery, you cannot give birth normally. You have to give birth through CS. Then I was like, wow, I think I had just conceived my second baby. Well, I think it's better for me to stay with the untreated fistula than to deal with CS because of the misconception about CS. It's a big wound. You don't get healed. There's a lot of misconception. Then something else. So the first thing is just awareness, knowing where to get help, knowing also it's free treatment because fistula surgeries are expensive. Then also I wished I got a support group. I think when I went to the hospital, I felt somehow home because I was amidst women, though from different social cultural status than me, but I felt, wow, these are my people. They understand my struggles. So yeah, a support group to know where to go. Then I also wished people would have an awareness of what this is. I think if there's more awareness, there would be less stigma. And people would know that as a woman suffering from fistula, I'm not responsible. I was just trying to get a baby. And sometimes if you don't get a baby, like in the setting where we come from, there's a lot of stigma. So it's sad that it's in trying to give life, you begin living in a dehumanizing condition. Yeah.
That is incredible insight. And again, thank you so much for being so open with us. You really have shared a lot with us from a academic and a personal perspective. And I think it's so important for people to hear this from you. Is there something else that you wanted to share with us today? You had mentioned to me when we spoke before about the degree of shame that you feel a lot of women carry.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Fistula brings a lot of, it's shameful. Like, for example, one of my type of fistulas, when I would stand up, it's like you're passing gas. When you laugh, urine leaks. So sometimes people laugh about you. Like, I remember, like, there's this one instant where I leaked stool at work and I had to go ask for permission. So it feels shameful. How can a grown up, like, how do you pass stool on yourself? Yeah. Then something else for us who are present when we are thinking about, and I'll address it in my thesis. I have realized that when we think about obstetric fistula, we need to think about it. There's the period before a woman gets fistula. That is critical when we are looking at preventing fistula, because if we would bring in interventions, it would help. Then there's also the duration that a woman gets fistula. Something else I wanted to mention that also surprised me by looking at the women in the hospital was how they didn't want to leave the hospital. because the hospital is a safe space. People understand you. Most of them who are poor, they get free, frequent food. Sometimes you go through a surgery. Then also that's something else we need to know, like one fistula surgery does not guarantee healing. There are people who after the first fistula surgery, they are told, go home, come back after 2 months. They don't want to go home because they cannot afford diapers. In the hospital, they get diapers. When they are at home, they just use rags to deal with it. Yeah, then there's also the post-fistula life. Yeah, it's okay. This woman has gone through a successful surgery. So what? If they are still going to struggle, like if they don't have money, they will. And most of the women are poor. They will still struggle, and that could make their healing process more difficult. It could also be a nutrition because, like one of the nurses, I was asking because my tear was repaired at birth. I remember my gyna repairing it, but I don't know what went wrong. And one of the nurses was telling me maybe it's diet, maybe you were not told what you need to do, like you have to abstain from sex for 6 months. You don't do strenuous jobs. You cannot use, we have motorbikes is a common means of transport in Kenya. You are not supposed to go on bumpy roads. These were things which I was told after my surgery. I think if I had known this after my first repair, it would have helped. Then also something else interesting that I saw. One of my friends, after I shared my story, she also opened up that, oh, if I also have this challenge. And she told me she gave birth not in the rural area. She had paid a gynecologist. And when she began leaking stool, she went to the doctor and the doctor told her, just go and do Kegel exercises. Then I told her, oh, maybe you need to come and see the doctor who was seeing me. And when the doctor saw her, the fistula surgeon was, wow, how come this kind of could not see this fistula? And that's also something I also question the nurses in hospital, the fistula nurses, because when you come, there are those who do for you the first screening before they decide whether they are admitting you or not. And they told me that, yeah, fistula, it needs a specific skill. And if someone is not trained, they are not able to see it. So yeah, so it's for us, it's just to think in short, to think about the pre-fistula life, the time which women are living with fistula, raise more awareness so that they live in dignity, and the post-fistula life. So how can we support women in integrating? Also, these women, even if they are now healed, they have lived in isolation for very long. Some have already lost their husbands. Like one I remember, like she didn't have, she like had to go be hosted. So will people accept the new you after, maybe depending with how long you have stayed with fistula? So yeah, there's a lot of things to think about, and there are also many places where we can plug in to help in preventing fistula.
You've done an excellent job there of kind of breaking it into, the pre-fistula prevention opportunity during, antenatal care, and then during the actual surgery and treatment itself, and then post, what is the conditions? Because one of the things you pointed out even is the transport, the roads. How is a woman supposed to care for herself, or if she has to do strenuous things at home, if that's part of her life, domestication, and even the sexual relationships with a partner, if she still has a partner. These are all very complex, multi-level issues, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Maybe I can just share. After my surgery, I was a high school teacher. So I took like a sick off, then we had a holiday, then I went back to work. My work was like 30 kilometers away, and there was like a stretch of like 3 kilometers, which was a rough road. I went back to work for 2 weeks. The second week, I felt like I had begun leaking stool again, leaking urine. Like I felt it was not the same because the road was bumpy. Sometimes it's a long distance. You need to take, we call them boda, the motorbikes. And I had to go to my gyna and told him, I think if I continue going to this school, we will go back to theater. Then luckily, I found a good director who accepted to transfer me. I just went, was a man I explained, and he accepted to take me to a nearby school. Yeah, but I'm imagining this might not be the case for many women. Sometimes they don't have a car, they have no option. They need food on the table. They have fistula, they are healed, but they have children. Life needs to continue. Yeah, so these are things important for us to think about when we are thinking about fistula, which we only an insider is able to see and to understand. Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for everything you have shared with us. I think you have given us an incredible education and insight, and increased our ability to have compassion for the challenge that is here. And I think I feel on behalf of the coalition that you've given us an even greater incentive to come together and to see what can be done to support you and to support other women in the work that is needed here and in the degree of the need. So Eva, you are so brave and you are so wonderful and so accomplished. And we are so grateful to you for being so open today and giving us this incredibly valuable opportunity. Is there anything else you would like to share? How can people follow your journey, Eva, as you're going through your research and as you're doing more? How can they stay connected to you?
Yeah, thank you first for having me. It's my pleasure to share my experience, and I hope that it can lead to social transformation. Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Eva Kyeni. Then I think the year I went through the fistula surgery, I wrote some blogs on my experience. Yeah, but I wanted to do it in a more professional website, so I was using Blogger. So I want to move. So yeah, I will also update that on my LinkedIn profile. So I am more of a writer, so I hope to share my experience more through writing, and you can share. And I'll also share my work email with Nadia. If you'd like to reach me, you're welcome.
Thank you for being so generous with your time. And we would be more than happy to share your blogs through the Safe Birth for All website and Connection social media as well. We'd be more than happy to help you with that as well. So Eva, thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for being such an incredible woman. We really are grateful to you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. We will.
Bye.